a child, I loved adventure stories, and being in the outdoors made me feel alive. Travelling to wild places has become my way of life. For me, it's all about connecting to people and the lands they live in, and I'm passionate about sharing my experiences through writing and film. My biggest journeys were rafting one of the world's longest rivers and riding a bicycle from Moscow to Beijing. When I was 20 years old, my friend Chris and I were cycling across Mongolia. While struggling through the Gobi Desert one day, these amazing wild horsemen came galloping from over the horizon. They headed off to places that our bikes could never have gone. These people had a world without boundaries. From here in Mongolia stretched the Great Eurasian Steppe to Hungary, and their ancestors were once warriors who crossed this vast space. It inspired in me a dream to live the life of a nomad and ride a horse from Mongolia to the Danube. I never imagined what lay before me. Long nights alone menaced by wolves and thieves, impossible mountain passes, and the most extreme climate on Earth. I'd even be caught in a war between sedentary and nomad people and face a personal tragedy that almost ended my journey. But I was driven on by an old nomad wisdom. To understand the wolf, you must put on the skin of a wolf and see through its eyes. When the Soviet Union collapsed, what had been out of bounds for so long was now open, and I had a chance to discover whether the nomad spirit does exist among the scattered nations of Eurasia.
Got about 10,000 k's to go now. Just got to find the horse.
I found a horse all right, the biggest in the world, and in the saddle a giant Genghis Khan. In the West, he's mainly remembered as a ruthless barbarian who terrorised Europe, but in Mongolia he's a national hero. Every day near the capital they celebrate the mighty Khan's conquests, a poor nomad boy who went on to command the greatest empire in history. Today more than half the world's population live in lands he once ruled. Yet we know so little about these nomads, these people who brought horses to the rest of the world. A local told me that if I had any chance of making this journey, I'd need hero horses. These are the kind of tough mounts that would have once carried Genghis Khan himself. The only problem is, I can't ride a horse.
When I arrived here and saw the horses and smelt the horses, it just struck me it's actually happening, and made me realise I don't know much about horses, and the thought of going 10,000 k's, it's actually pretty frightening.
These people are making fun of my gear, and they want me to leave it behind. They even joke that white men can't ride. And what are you going to do when the wolves attack? And when the thieves steal your horses? Eventually I was offered my first horse, and this is how they proved to me that it's a nomkhon, which means calm.
And this guy's still pretty quiet.
To start with, I bought 2 horses, one for riding and one for my equipment. I'm planning to trade these for others as I go. It's weight that kills horses, not distance. So I've got 2 pairs of trousers, a couple of shirts, and 2 pairs of underwear that can easily become 4 by turning them inside out. The first question that everyone asks me is, are you carrying a gun? And no, I'm not. I guess I just trust in the better side of human nature. Here I am, finally setting off on my 10,000 kilometre journey. But the locals don't think I'll make it more than a few days. I've allowed 4 months in Mongolia to travel 1,500 kilometres to the Altai Mountains on the border of Kazakhstan. before the winter turns the steppe into an Arctic wasteland. I'm doing this journey alone and on a very small budget. I want to write a book, make a film, and really get into the skin of these people. I planned the journey to take 18 months to Hungary, but it was a huge underestimation of the struggle ahead. You could plan for a trip like this all your life and never be ready. Even though we live in the 21st century and I've got this satellite phone, a video camera and my laptop, it's not going to save me. I'm hoping to put myself through the same conditions that nomads experience. The landscape spreads out in some ways like one big ocean. You think it's 4 kilometres to the horizon, but it's actually 10. From here, the Mongols once headed west, didn't stop until they'd conquered everything as far as Europe. And at the moment, I'm struggling just to conquer the heat, handling the horses, and just getting by every day. It's about 34, 35 degrees now during the day. The weather here is unbelievable. One moment it's really hot, about 25 degrees. Next minute a big wall of clouds and a storm will just come rolling over. It'll just snap freeze. Your eyes become very well trained at finding good grass, finding water, and anything on the horizon that even looks remotely unnatural, you tend to pick it up very, very quickly. And in Mongolia there's almost always a couple of herders, a couple of riders, somewhere in the distance, and you know they've got their binoculars out, staring at you. I've got to learn how to hobble the horses and stake them out. Out here there are no fences. It's one of my greatest fears that they'll bolt off with everything and leave me stranded, alone. Without trusting that the odds will favour you when you take a risk, you'd never even begin a journey like this. This is the first journey I've done alone, and the scariest time is at night. The dangers they've warned me about all seem so much more real. I heard this terrible neighing from my horse, and so I ran into the dark and just discovered probably the worst thing possible. 2 horses were gone. Come back! And I could even hear them in the distance, just being taken away. Oh no. Oh no, you can't. But I couldn't do anything, it was pitch black, it's about 2:30 in the morning. There's a Mongolian saying, if you don't solve your problems before dawn, then you'll never solve them. The following morning I was more than lucky to find my horses among a herd. A local herder said to me, "Oh yeah, I know, these are your horses, they came to me by themselves. You must have tied them really badly." He taught me a very valuable lesson. He said, "A man on the steppe without friends is as narrow as a finger. A man on the steppe with friends is as wide as the steppe." If I camp alone, I'm fair game. I need to get to know the people, make friends, and camp nearer to their yurts, or gurs as they're known in Mongolia. By the unwritten laws of the steppe, I'll then be offered protection. These people are really trusting me without any hesitation. I don't think there's anywhere else in the world where I'd be embraced so openly by strangers. It's always busy here. They're up at 5 or 6 every day, milking and rounding up the yaks. This is the morning routine, being woken up with fresh yogurt, tea and yak butter. Nomads really appreciate my horse tack, so it's my saddles, ropes and reins I've got to keep an eye on. My other equipment, like my video camera and satellite phone, they're not so interested in. I've got to be careful with this little fella or I'll lose everything. I don't speak much Mongolian, but out here everyone understands the language of the horse. People immediately know what my needs are. The wealth and pride of a nomad is still measured by the size of his herd. For nomads, the horse has always been at the core of life. Horses were first tamed and ridden on the steppe more than 5,000 years ago, and they've been hunted for much longer. In summer, fermented mare's milk called airg is a staple. Slightly alcoholic, it was one of Genghis Khan's loves. Horse manure is used for heating and cooking, and it's hung from the ceiling to keep evil spirits away. Even the ropes that tie together the gers are made from horsehair. And so are the strings of the horsehead fiddle, called the morin khor. It was nomads who introduced bowed string instruments to the rest of the world. These people have always lived by the rhythms and the moods of the steppe, respecting the wolf and worshipping the horse. In the past, nomads were even buried with their horses. They believed that the spirit inhabits every living creature, the earth, the sky, and everything around us. These people can hardly believe that I'm living on $10 a day and that no one's paying me to do this journey. They're sure I have a backup crew somewhere, or maybe I'm a spy. It's very hard for them to believe that I'm genuinely interested in their lives. When they understand that, they take me into their families and their homes as one of their own. This family's just slaughtered a goat. They've hung the meat out to dry for winter.
Mongol restaurant.
I wasn't a big meat eater before this journey, and this is no place for vegetarians.
This is a bit of stomach, I think. This is a...
There's no shops out here, and Mongolians hardly ever eat vegetables. One of the keys to my journey is carrying dried mutton called borts. A kilo of this can last me a couple of weeks.
And it's the same stuff that Mongols had during Genghis Khan's time, and that's how they were able to go so lightweight and yet still have enough food to survive. I look forward to eating it.
They used to say that with borts, Mongolian warriors could carry a whole sheep in their pocket. I've come to realise a troubling dilemma. I can camp near a nomad ger and let my horses go hungry, or find pasture in the wilderness and spend the whole night worrying about wolves and thieves. I've started to get up 3 or 4 times every night to check the horses.
It's about 4 o'clock in the morning, and suddenly there's this incredible howling, and it's just the most fearsome sound. Puts a real blood-curdling feeling in your stomach. It sounds like there are hundreds of wolves, and it must be some kind of innate thing with humans. It's just absolutely petrifying. The horses, they are prime prey for hungry wolf packs. The fire's been keeping them away so far.
Mongolians believed their ancestor was the blue wolf, and to see a wolf is to be as wise as a wolf. To kill and eat a wolf is to inherit some of its wisdom. Mongolians also believed that wolves can fly, and only by offering their bodies to the wolves after they die can their spirit be taken to Tengri, the god of the sky. So with these Mongolian sky burials, you can find skeletons scattered about in the wilderness. They believe it's important to turn meat eaters into eaten meat. People have been living and dying and riding horses through this land for thousands of years. And really, nothing's changed. The Mongolians believe that they are born from the earth and their spirit returns to inhabit the world around them. I'm just passing through these lands in the same way we pass through life. The horses are becoming my bridge to the land. I'm starting to understand the miracle of life on the steppe. Horses are able to turn what little grass is out here into protein, which in turn supports human life. Wherever they could find grass, the Mongols could travel. With 3 horses for every mounted soldier, the Mongols created the largest land empire in history. They invented the Pony Express. Messengers could gallop from Mongolia to Hungary in 2 weeks. But I've just got 2 horses, a bowl of semolina for breakfast, and I'll be lucky to make 30 kilometres before sunset. It's 40 days since I set off, and I've travelled 1,000 kilometres into Mongolia's remote northwest. Just come along the edge of the most northern desert in the world. It's just over there, sand dunes as far as the eye can see. I'm now further away from a city than I've ever been in my life. But even out here, on the edge of survival, I find nomads. For these people, what we call wilderness is their home. It's a really raw life. A bad winter could wipe out their herd. Haven't washed for 15 days now, and I'm starting to feel it. Even these people who probably only wash properly, maybe once every 2 weeks, every month, they've suggested that I should wash. I washed every now and then, but took note from Genghis when he said that clean water is only for the drinking of man and beast, and to wash off the dirt is to wash off the luck. Autumn's closing in, and I've made it to the beginning of the Altai Mountains. This has certainly turned my idea of horseshoeing on its head. And this horse, good old Rusty, he's about 16 years old and he's never ever had shoes on him in his life, so he's a bit scared. Until now, my horses have been unshod, but the way ahead is a maze of high, rocky passes. I'm helped by a local herder, Dashnyam. He tells me it'll be hard going on the horses, so we're taking a camel to help with the load and give the horses a rest.
Now we're gradually winding our way up to Kharikhar Ul, big mountains up here. It's just magnificent.
Summer's come to an end and the nomads are moving down.
The most important things for nomads is pasture and water. And that's the main reason why nomads have to move. There's not enough pasture all year round to stay in one spot.
Each camel can take up to 300 kilograms, kids included. They're moving because the season's turned and it's already freezing up there. The Altai Mountains are a crucible of ancient nomad civilization. I've always dreamed of coming here.
Oh my God! And this is, I've got to say, 10 million times better than being stuck in an office. Oh, I just never expected this view.
We're heading for the highest passes on our crossing. These peaks are around 4,000 metres. But even out here, we haven't gone unnoticed. And some hunters have found their way into my tent.
So just coming out of the cold, they've got a whole stack of fresh marmot that they've just shot. And it's nice for Dashnyam for a bit of company. And of course they're a bit surprised to discover there's an Australian here. And they've been living in this cave for about 6 days. You just get the sense that these guys are just incredibly hardened. They've got nothing except their coats, and here they are living off the marmot that they're catching. I wonder whether it was much different 1,000 years ago. I have not eaten the meat yet because it's got a reputation in Mongolia for carrying the Black Death. And sorry that if my words sound a bit slurred, but they've been giving me a lot of Mongol vodka made from yak yogurt. This is about as far as you can get, I think, from living in a city like back home in Australia.
Mongolians are warm and generous people, but on the outside they really reflect the landscape. The landscape isn't affectionate, it's not kind. And perhaps that's why people always believed that the Mongols were barbaric. Because they are the hardest people that I've ever met. But in confronting death, they have to be hardened, because out here, if you don't accept that life is going to be hard, then you're not going to get through. The people out here never complain. They accept the way things are. And that's something I'd like to take with me from this journey. For the past 8 days, Dashnyam's guided me through the high passes of the Altai. But now he's got to return to his family before the way back is blocked by snow.
Ciao! He has to go back the exact same route that we just came. He's going to do it in 2 days on the way back. I've no idea really how.
I'm now more alone than ever. Winter's bearing down and there's still 8,000 kilometres to go. Beyond those mountains lies the greatest challenge, Kazakhstan, the largest nomad nation on Earth, where the temperature ranges from 50 above to 50 below. In a country devastated by Soviet rule, I'm about to ride into a wasteland called the Starving Steppe, and the coldest winter in 40 years. I'm going to have to draw on everything I've learnt to survive.